Okay, so what you're seeing here is the water that came off of the out of the mixer that contains the galena and the powdered quartz and a little powdered pyrite and everything else that was in our mix of minerals. And originally I did this in a smaller pan because I had some material that I had washed off of the larger rocks in an attempt to get a better look at the larger rocks so I could see if there was any galena left that needed to be processed down. But that left me with some galena water. And at first I tried pouring it off because I had it in a bucket, letting it settle and then pouring off the water to try to concentrate it. But it's so fine that it just kept floating up to the top, and I was just constantly trying to lose just a little bit flowing over the edge of the pot, of the 5-gallon bucket I should say. I got the bright idea. I threw this in a smaller pot than this one and decided to boil the water off. What happened, and I was totally unprepared for this, is that the certain parts of the ore floated to the top of the pan as kind of a metallic foam is the best way I can describe it. It kind of reminded me rather a lot of aluminum paint. If you've ever used aluminum paint, how it has that kind of swirly metallic look to it. And you can actually see some of it already forming over here on top of this, where it's that silvery looking color. And what that is, and I've discovered this after doing a little research, is that in large scale manufacturing, they will take galena, grind it to a fine powder, put it in water, and then add chemicals that make it float and bubble it with air to make it float even better, and then skim the top layer off. There's some excellent videos on YouTube if you want to look at that. But what I found was that boiling it with no chemicals whatsoever does a very good job of bringing the galena to the surface as a froth. So I have just started this. It hasn't reached a boil yet. When it does, I should get a thick frothy film on the top of this that I'll take the strainer and I'll lift it off, set it aside in this pan down here, and then continue to stir and work this until I've got all of it gone, or at least as much as I could possibly get out. At that point, I will pour off the base water here, which will be not have this, so I won't be losing galena because I'll have all this off the top of it by that point, or most of it. But I'll pour the water off and then reload out of my 9 buckets of galena ore. And by doing this over and over, I can separate just the galena from everything else. And this is a major advantage to me because I don't believe I'll be bringing the pyrites with it or any of the other associated minerals. So when I go to smelt this stuff eventually to try to make lead on my process towards making silver, I won't have to struggle with those other materials that are just a byproduct that I don't even want. So for right now, this particular batch is the first thing I poured out of the bucket. And there's probably not a whole lot of galena in it because it's settled to the bottom before I pour it in here. But I will do everything I can to get all this galena out. And once I've done that, I will get rid of the bulk of the water, reload, and continue doing. At the end, I expect to have a lot of water. Yeah, see, there's some of that galena foam already. Let's go ahead and take some of that off while I can. Drain it out real good. And set it aside. And then continue to take it a bit at a time. When I'm done, I should have pretty much water, possibly a little bit of sand at the bottom depending on how much I've got in my buckets, and I'll have removed the bulk of the galena. I can do a little extra fine processing to get the last little bit of galena. And one thing I did notice, while my water now is clear, clearish, I should say. After I boiled it, it turns kind of a rusty brown, which may actually be the pyrites breaking down into iron oxide, which is, rust. And I noticed that if you look at videos where ore is processed in water, and I'd point you to Jason Baker's table shaking videos, you'll notice that quite often, even when he's running fairly clean material, he ends up with an orangish looking water on it. And I think that's the iron staining that comes off the quartz and ends up in the water, and I think it's what I may be experiencing. We'll just have to see as I go. But I'm going to let this reach a higher temperature so it'll foam up. Strain all the galena off I can. Possibly 2 or 3 rounds of that, and then switch to new material. This will take a little bit, but having that very pure galena, that is going to be a major advantage to me. So I'll be back when it's a little hotter. See you in a bit. Okay, so that took about 5 minutes to hit a boil. I'm going to turn that off, just in hopes of slowing it down a little bit. But if I take a scoop, like so, I'm actually removing a fair amount of galena. If I get a little water with it, I really don't care, because here after a bit, I will dry out the pan with the galena in it. Now, I wasn't expecting this particular pot to have a whole lot in it, and to be honest, I didn't get a whole lot. And I think just about everything's come to the surface. Now, one thing I will do is I'm going to pour this water off, but just the top layer, I'm going to try and pour just the top layer off into an aluminum pan, with the intention that that layer, multiple layers from multiple pots, I could put back in and reprocess to get that last little bit. So let's get started with that. So I'm just going to, and unfortunately I'm not sure if I can show you this very well. Let's see where you can see. If I try to just very gently yeah, see, most of that's just going away. So I'm just going to set that pot, the whole pot aside, and let it cool down. I'm going to put that in a 5-gallon bucket. Now, one thing I will say straight up, if you try anything like this, however many buckets you think you need, you're dead wrong. Triple it. Now I'm seeing a little bit of sediment in the bottom, not a whole lot, nothing to worry about. That particular load that I put in there, I didn't expect it to have much in it. One, it was the top of the bucket that I poured off. And two, it wasn't a very thick bucket. Some of the buckets that I have are almost like chocolate milk. So let's try bucket number, or the next portion of the bucket. And I'm just going to shake this one up a little bit, not a whole lot. And this one, I don't know if you can see it, I'm actually seeing mud pour out. Might be able to get that all in there. And you can see the galena mud, if you will. And I'll take and I'll rinse that out here in a minute, so I can make sure I get it all, probably put it in the next batch. So once again, we'll let this boil up, see what we get, and I'll check back with you, here in a minute. Oh yeah, that's what we're talking about right there. You can see how I've got clear water over here. It's very, muddy gray water, but this silvery looking foam in this area, that should be my Galena, and I can just scoop it out like pudding. Stir that around a bit. And just like that, I've removed at least 99% of it. So I'll turn the air off again, or the fire off again. Grab my gloves. And because the Galena floats in this state, and even when it cools down, it still wants to float. As I pour this into this bucket, eventually I'll come back to it and I should be able to just skim off the top part. Another fresh bucket. I don't know if you could see that very well, but the top portion I poured off was fairly clear, and then the bottom portion's a lot more silty. So we'll relight this, boil it, skim it, go to the second part.